Welcome, everyone, to the Last Gas Fantasy Sports Podcast, coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World studio here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors, here at Celebration Point, located in Gainesville, Florida. My name is TJ White. I'm the co-host. Today with me, next to me, is always Brad Carman. Good to see you, Brad. How you been, man?
Good, man.
And to our right, far right over there, Corey Bursler. He's been on the show before. Glad to have him back today. How's it going, Corey?
It's going great. Really excited to be back.
Yeah, we're excited to have more than one opinion here because normally it's me and Brad going at each other. So we're glad to have you here today. Also, with the big game Monday night between your team and my team, I'm sure we're going to get into a little heated debate about that, but I'm glad to have you on here and doing that, man.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
As we go forward, I want to thank our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company, Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza, Door-to-Door Transport, Gibson Truck World, and also Viking Companies for their continued support of the show. We want to say thank you every week for that, and we really appreciate the time and effort that you guys have done for us. Go check them out on our website at www.lastgasfantasy.com and check out those sponsors, Brad. They've been really helpful, and they'll do whatever you need, and they're just a great group of people that have really been great for this community and around Central Florida. Also, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Last Gas Fantasy Podcast every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Make sure you go on there, click the like and follow buttons that you're following us. We're going into, what is this, week 10 or 11, Brad?
Week 11 here.
Week 11 here. And make sure you add your comments. Come in live right now. Go on there. Go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Enter the comments. We'll read them live. We'll give you the feedback, and we'll go from there. I mean, it's pretty exciting to have both of you guys in the studio at the same time. Last time we had you on the phone, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a little of a delay. It was a little weird talking about that. You know, me and Corey would be going and asking you, like, wait, is he on there? Are you talking on there, Brad? You know, so it's great to have everybody in studio this morning. We are here at Spurrier's in the Gibson Truck World studio. They are starting to let people in. It is going to get packed. You know, even with yesterday's debacle and everything like that for the Gators, there's still people pouring in here for brunch. So we can't be more excited to have them looking and listening on while we're talking in this room. So, you know, Brad, let's get started into the week recaps and you know, see where we're going on and how's it going, man?
Well, you know, we are pretty much in the critical part of your season. We're either 5-5, 6-4. You're trying to make the playoffs here. So, guys, follow up with those questions. Ask us who you want to start. Ask us who you want to sit. You know, let's make some good decisions here and get into it. Okay.
You know, and I want to touch on that, Brad, real quick while you said that. You know, it was interesting. We had a couple of people message us during the middle of the week asking us about players and this, and you responded, I think, immediately. And within 10 minutes of him responding, the player got hurt and was out for the day. So he immediately responded back, told him to pick somebody else, tried to help him out there. So it's like that. You know, even if we say something and we realize that it went out or something happened, we'll change it. We'll message you back. We'll call you back and say, hey, look at this different option. And it's really helpful on that.
And there's some interesting games this week. We'll talk about going into the show a little bit further. But there could be some shootouts. Could be some high-scoring points to be got. So let's get those questions coming in, and we'll start with the recap. Well, let's start out last week. The 49ers beat up on the Rams 41-10. This is the 49ers' first game that won at home in 393 days. I thought that was an amazing stat.
You know, and that is it, Brad. I mean, you're talking, your home fans haven't seen you win a game in a year. And that's nuts. And you've got the Rams that are right down the road there that are having one of the better seasons after getting rid of their terrible quarterback, Goff, and picking up Stafford, who's been with Detroit for 12 years, Corey?
Oh, quite a while. I know. It was one of those things where the Rams pick up all these star players, and they're just not meshing quite yet, and they seem a little soft. So the way that they get to the pass rush, you can easily run on them, and that went right into the 49ers' strength.
Oh, yeah, you nailed it, too. They pick up Odell Beckham, who – did you see the meme? The meme is priceless. And he goes –
so many good ones.
And it's Odell standing behind Stafford. And he goes, I thought you were supposed to be better than Mayfield.
But, you know, watching that game, they tried so hard at the beginning of the game to get Odell Beckham the ball.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part of where I don't like the Odell Beckhams of the world trying to get it, where they have to have the ball.
Yep.
He throws 2 interceptions early. It just from there it was trying to fight to get back in the game. And they just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham didn't know the plays, so they couldn't go a hurry up offense. They had to huddle up every time.
Yeah, that game was over early, and it looked like that the 49ers were never going to let that one go.
Right. The next game is Patrick Mahomes. Wow, they found him. They found him in Vegas, 41-14 over the Raiders.
About time.
I mean, we called it. I called on the show. I said, this is going to be a blowout. And you go, I don't know. I'm picking Las Vegas. I picked Kansas City. You know, he absolutely had a phenomenal day, 400 yards, 5 TDs that you've gotten in here. All of the playmakers for that team stepped up. You know, but I've got a little bit of talking about them later on, but all the playmakers came out. They showed up. They scored points. They did touchdowns. This is the Chiefs, I think, that people expected to see. Now, maybe it was a wounded Las Vegas team, but they've been playing well as well this year.
And I think Kansas City is trying to finally find themselves this year.
And they are. They're starting to get there. The AFC is becoming more wide open, and we're going to talk about that when we get into the divisional races. But the AFC the beginning of the year, I thought it was like a 3-horse race. It's changed.
Yeah, there's a ton of teams that you could see coming out of the AFC making it to the Super Bowl. There's been the teams that you think would be standout have a game that immediately brings them back to earth, and then they just keep going back and forth.
Yep.
This week you had the Bills came back after losing to Jacksonville because you think they'll be good.
Yep.
And then teams like the Ravens, Chiefs, they're all kind of in that mix of they could be the team, but no one's really standing out.
Yeah.
The next game was the Packers-Seahawks, and an amazing stat here, too. Russell Wilson returns from the hand injury, and in the first time in 10 years gets shut out.
You know, they don't really ever get shut out. I mean, just he's been a stat leader for fantasy for as long as I remember. He reminds me of some of the older players that just consistently you looked at your fantasy the next year, like you go, oh, I either won my league or I lost my league. You put your book down and then you came back, a week before the draft started and you're going, okay, let me go buy that book off the 7-Eleven shelf. And you look up and there he is in the top 5 again. You're like, wait, is he still even playing? And it's like the Peyton Manning days and those guys, and you're going, the other guy was like Rivers. Philip Rivers was the same way. He was in the top 10, top 5. And for him to come back, I think, he had a lot of turmoil in the offseason this year as well. And I think with that combined with his injury and that team not having the stable running that they like to do and being able to pound and ground, I think it's really played into how that team looks this year, and I just don't see him doing anything in the NFC this year.
I think with the Seahawks struggling, he might have come back a little early from the injury because he didn't look right last week against the Packers.
No.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing too. We're talking about how bad the Seahawks looked. Green Bay didn't do anything either. I mean, they won 17-0. That defense is playing very well at a high level right now. That the DBs and the backside of that's doing very well. But the Packers left a lot on the table there. I mean, 17 points after last week's 14-6 win over Kansas City with the backup because Aaron Rodgers was out with COVID. So they've got to pick it up if they want to do stuff moving forward in this year too.
Sometimes, though, even a sloppy win is a win.
That's right.
So you're moving on. Like I take a 3-0 win at all times. So you can build off of a good defensive performance, and hopefully the offense picks up for them.
I'm sure the Bills would have taken a 9-6 win instead of a 9-6 loss last
exactly.
week. I would have taken a 26-25 win yesterday for the Gators, so I promise you that.
Yeah.
The next game I want to recap is I'm back. Cam Newton, first game back. They pull out a win. They beat the Cardinals, number 1 team, 34-10.
And they were at Arizona, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. No, and I am the first one to tell you that I'm not a solid supporter of Cam Newton over the many years that I've been here. He was at school here when I was at school here. I've heard some crazy stories about that dude, but he could have very easily packed up his suitcase, retired with his money, walked off the field. He has enough to do whatever the heck he wants. He could start his own clothing line as fashionable as he is, and people would eat it up. But for him to want to come back and play to where he started his career and to come in and help them get to, I think they're 500 now.
Yep.
And we're going to talk. We're going to talk in a little bit about the divisions and things like that. But when you think about that and him coming and doing that, it's phenomenal. To even hear, you got to give him kudos for that at least.
Yeah, he didn't have a spectacular statistical game, but he came in and he gave him a boost. And he scores the touchdown. Super excited. The whole team's excited. And you could see there was a replay on the sideline that he's really motivating the team and like being a leader already just coming in his first week back with the Panthers.
In the red zone, is he the best rushing quarterback in the NFL?
I mean, in the red zone on short yardage, he has to be up there.
Yeah,
no
once
doubt.
you get within the 10, I'd say he's so big, he's still fast.
The only other person there's only two other people that I would put up there with him, just for close yardage, is Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Josh Allen has been absolutely steals every single Terry's TD ever in the known
Yeah.
Bills, and every fantasy hates him. And the other guy who's silent but just dirty is Tom Brady. And he does the QB sneak better than anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he gets the sneak, but Josh Allen has the same like body style
Yep.
as Cam Newton, a little bit bigger, so he can run,
Yep.
but then also take a hit and drive forward.
And that's
So-
not taking anything from Lamar and those guys, but they're
Yeah.
just quick at the Kyler Murrays. Like those guys can just break your ankle in open space. This guy goes through tackles, and I think that's what you're alluding to, Brad.
Well, you just brought up Tom Brady, so let's talk about that. Washington beats the Buccaneers 29-19. What happened to Tampa?
I mean, I think they were still sleeping. I think they never got off the bus, or they never left home. I think, it was just one of those games where you're just like, they're one of my disappointment talks this week, and so I'm going to leave this one to Corey to talk about right now, so that I can talk about them later and just really be sad about it twice today.
I just think with Tampa Bay, it's weird. Since Antonio Brown's been out, they haven't seemed quite right. There's not the dump check down pass for Tom Brady to find his little safety net, so that's kind of messed with the offense. There's been injuries with Gronk, Brown out with the numerous things that he's out for. So it's one of those things that I just don't think they're like feeling right on offense, but they easily could get that back this coming week.
And they have to establish a run game.
Yeah.
They can't rely on a 50-year-old man, and I know he's not 50. He's 40, 43, 42, 40.
I'm 43.
He's old man time out there playing unreal, and he's in the MVP race, which is the craziest thing to think about too. But they have to run the ball, whether it's Leonard Fournette, if he's healthy, whether it's Ronald Jones. I said Aaron Jones from there, but Ronald Jones. They've got to get somebody to take some pressure off of him and that line to just have to protect the whole day. And you lose Gronk. Gronk's still not healthy with his back issue. You lost
Brown.
Lost Brown. I mean, it's just a multitude of things that they've got to get healthy, and
Yeah, Leonard Fournette's got to take it over today.
they've got to do something. So that's where I'm at with that, Brad.
Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is my team. The Cowboys bounced back with a great 43-3 win over the Falcons. Falcons looked horrible.
Yeah.
Cowboys looked wonderful.
Well, as you know, I'm a Bucks fan and you're a Cowboys fan, and the last week I dogged you pretty good when my team was off, so I get to give you kudos this week. The Bucks lost to New Orleans the week before their bye, and I was like, that's just a one-off. And I was texting with my buddy who's also a Dallas fan, and he goes, you can say it's a one-off if you come back and bounce back like Dallas did. Dallas bounced back, puts up huge numbers on the Falcons.
Yeah.
But when you're Tampa and you have a bye in between and then lose to a bad Washington football team, that's concern raising, and that's the difference between what you guys did and what my team did.
Yeah, Dallas, as much as it hurts me to say, is a complete team. Their defense looks great.
They do.
Trayvon Diggs, just another interception, just really steps it up. Atlanta looked terrible last week, looked terrible on Thursday. They've scored 3 points in the past 2 games for them, so it's a rough go for Matty Ice.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys do look like a complete team, and going forward, like as hard as it is to say, are legit Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that I picked Atlanta the week before they lost the last 2, and that was a heck of a pick. They come back I think they beat New Orleans that week, and then New Orleans comes back and beats Tampa. It's wild. We did get a Facebook question, and I'm gonna leave this to you, Corey. That's your team. Do you start Saquon Barkley this week coming back if he's healthy?
I would not. I'd probably give it another week. He's been quite injury prone, and with him coming back, if he is gonna play, they usually kind of ease him in to the lineup on that first week. So I would probably go with Gaskins, even though that's not the best person I'd want to start.
Yep.
But he is going to get a majority of the carries with the Giants. If their run game doesn't do well and the offensive line is not good, then they'll just immediately go to a bunch of passing plays. And so then you're just watching Saquon on the sideline.
Yeah.
And it would be incredibly
And
frustrating.
I think Miami plays the Jets this week, right?
Yes.
And so I think you have to look at that. Tampa's front on the defensive side on Monday night is very strong. Vita Vea, Pierre-Paul, who's an ex-Giant, some other things like that. That front 4 or 5 and the middle linebackers, David in there too, White in there, those guys really do a good job of stopping the run and limiting big plays. So I think you'd have more success playing Gaskins, and I would agree with you, Brad, Corey, on starting Gaskins over Saquon there. Yep.
So how about these Detroit Lions? They're not going to go they might not win a game this year, but they're not going to go where they haven't done something. They tied the Steelers 16-16 in overtime. I'm not sure if it's bad for the Steelers or good for the Lions.
Brad, that's a game that I'm going to touch in a couple. But that game, if you're a Steelers fan, you have to feel so defeated right now that you played that much time against one of the worst teams in the NFL and you tied them. Even with a backup quarterback, you'd still think that like something would magically happen where you do better than that. But to tie the Lions is just brutal.
Brutal.
It's one of those games where the tie was a win for the Lions
Yes.
and a loss for the Steelers. Also, we were watching the games last weekend, and just endlessly entertaining to me that the first game that the Lions didn't lose, they also didn't win.
Right.
Like just so perfect.
It's like, oh, you're not gonna go.
Well, at least you're not going 0-17.
Yeah, you're 0-17, but you still win this possibility is out there. Yeah. That's the wild part there for sure.
The Bills have a nice win against the Jets, 45-17. Mike White, unfortunately, threw 4 interceptions, and now this week, Joe Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback for the Jets.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we know it shows you how fast things can change in the NFL. We were talking about having Mike White and talking to him, and local product there does well. And now, that's how good these teams are at scouting reports and things like that. They can pick up tendencies, find out where you're at, and be able to pick you apart in a matter of 3 weeks. It's unreal.
The Patriots beat the Browns 45-7. Cleveland continues a 29-year route on the road against the Patriots. 29 years.
That's almost as old as I am, Brad.
You wish.
Yeah, it's a little younger than me, but still, no, it's crazy to think that Patriots. Brad, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company. They're bringing you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs here in Gainesville and the surrounding communities. Also want to say thanks to Paisano Stone-Fired Pizza and Grill. If you're looking for a quick lunch or dinner destination to meet up with friends and families, Paisano's is the place to be, whether it's in your home or theirs. Gibson Truck World, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors, Viking Companies, and Weebity Market also for your continued support of the program. And I want to say special thanks to Evan. He's been running our program here from Weeby. He does it week in and week out. He's silent behind the scenes here, but also want to say thanks to him. He's a great guy and does a great job here. We don't mention him very often, but this week, going into Thanksgiving next week, we just want to say thanks to him and their staff here. So, Brad, let's talk about going into some of the surprises and then disappointments and players this week. The recaps there pretty good. Followed up with that. I'm going to let you start off with who your biggest surprise of the week was, and then go around the room there.
Yeah, my biggest surprise this week was New England blowing out Cleveland. Mac Jones really showed up, played a great game, 3 touchdowns. Stevenson's running for 100 yards and 2 more touchdowns. New England's really looking like a playoff team.
No, they are, and they are. I hate it. You want them to just be bad. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry about that. When you've had the GOAT on your team and you've been winning, you deserve to suck for a little while, and they're not. You pick up a quarterback, it's terrible.
And they look they look strong this week again. It is you're hoping for a couple year just break from it, and you got one.
Yeah.
And there was one season of hey, we're not good. They pick up Mac Jones. Mac Jones isn't lighting the world on fire statistically, but he's being consistent.
He's
makes the correct
game,
reads. They're looking good on defense. New England looking like a serious playoff contender.
I mean, there's 2 fan bases that are the most. I would say 3. Let me get that straight. 3 fan bases: the Steelers, either New York team, and New England that are always in your face about everything, regardless of what sport it is. That's just they love. They're passionate. They're diehard fans, and so you would hope that they could just get it's brutal. I want them to be bad. Like Tampa, like I won one back when I was in high school, and then I won one last year. Like I got a 20-year gap there. I took my dues. I took my whipping. I got another good quarterback. I'm good, And so, I hope that they don't stay good. But that's a question I'm going to bring up in a little bit. My surprise team of the week for me was the Steelers. The surprise game actually was that Steelers Detroit Lions game. It was a 0-0 game. It was 16-16 overtime tie. The Steelers, after knowing Baltimore lost last week and having an opportunity to really take over and get in the playoff hunt for that division and in the AFC, and you come out and do that. I mean, Cleveland's kind of 500 right now. Cincinnati's 500. Baltimore loses, and you have a chance to really make up a game, and you to say, hey, I'm going to tie with the worst team that's 0-8 in the NFL, and that's just a surprise for me, and they have to do better moving forward. I know Ben Big was out. I know they had Mason Rudolph. They've had chances to change quarterbacks. They've had chances to play better things. Najee's knee was hurt. Those are all excuses when you're playing that team.
Yeah.
So,
my surprise for last week was Carolina, Arizona. I know Arizona was missing Kyler Murray, but again, they were missing Kyler Murray the week before, and it didn't make they got a win. Colt McCoy is a solid backup quarterback. But more surprising for the game was Carolina putting up 34 points with Cam Newton coming in the game his first week back on the team. And he scores, he throws for a touchdown, he rushes for a touchdown. Them putting up 34 points was very surprising to me.
Yeah, for sure. No, that I didn't see that coming, especially in Arizona with that defense the way it's been playing. There's no way I would have guessed. You could have said maybe 20. I would have been like, oh, yeah, you're probably on the high end.
Yeah.
But 34, that's a number. Brad, who was your player of the week or best performance you got going, man?
He came from Tennessee. It was Marcus Johnson, 5 catches for 100 yards. Tennessee just continues to win. Henry went out on IR, and they can do what they need to do to get the game and win the game.
Yeah, it's awesome. I chose Kansas City's Darnell Williams. He had 11 carries for 43 yards, 9 catches for 101 yards, 1 TD. We touched on a little bit earlier in the game how the stars showed out, between Kelsey, Hill, Williams, and Patty Mahomes. They all showed up. They all came out to play, and they need those guys every week to come out and play if they're going to go back in the AFC contention. And they've got the hardest schedule. They had the hardest schedule going into the last 9 games of the season. And they've got to play this well each and every week if they think that they're going to make the playoffs. And everybody I say still thinks they'll believe they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're still a solid team, and there's no reason to think that they can't put it together on this stretch run.
Yep.
My player of the week or surprise player was Jamal Agnew, the wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
So Jamal, the craziest thing to me about him in this past week is as a wide receiver, he had 0 receptions on 5 targets. But had 3 rushes for 79 yards and a touchdown. He also does the punt and kickoff returns. So if you have those return yards in your league, you can build up some points. In our league, he had 21.9 points. Was just a waiver wire pickup for shout out my wife Kathy Kelly. She gets a big win with Jamal Agnew just for running a couple end arounds, and so kind of nuts of how he did well last week.
Well, no, and it's neat like that. Those kinds of players. It's kind of like the Cordarrelle Patterson out of Atlanta. Those guys just get them the ball. They're electric. They're moving. They're doing it. And so, I saw somebody say that get him the ball anytime you can because he's right now he's just hard to bring down. So that's a great player right there. Brad, who were your biggest disappointments for the week?
My biggest disappointment was Baltimore losing to Miami.
Yep.
Baltimore had only beaten Miami had beaten Miami in 8 of the last 9 games. The Ravens won the last 3 meetings 137-16. Lamar Jackson's streak was 45 straight starts, scoring at least 14 points, and that's ended.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
Against Miami.
Yeah, they just kept blitzing him. It was just blitz after blitz
Pressure.
after blitz the entire game.
Well, you know who would be happy about that? Freddie. Freddie here, we all know Freddie from Weeby Marketing. He's a big Miami fan, and so, I've burned Miami quite a bit on the show, and so when they do well, you got to give them credit. So congratulations to Freddie's team out there, and they earned it. I went over after that game on Thursday night and watched it across the street, and it was great, man. It was I was surprised that they were able to hold off. Tua came in with a hurt knee. We talked a little bit about it, but it's unreal. The disappointing game of the week for me, and I'm going to say it, was the Tampa Bay game. It was just, you have an opportunity to really take a hold of a division, and the division that was pretty tight with New Orleans winning, and we talked about it last week. They were only one game ahead in the win column, not even in the loss column. New Orleans loses, and you think that they have a chance to really separate themselves from the NFC South, and they just don't. And that is what is the most frustrating part, and that's why I'm disappointed in them.
Yeah, my disappointing game was the Los Angeles Rams losing to the 49ers. Not just that they lost. That's not, to me, that big a deal in a division rivalry game, but how they lost. Yeah. They got owned at the line of scrimmage the entire game. This is now the second straight primetime loss for the Rams. And if you go through the Rams' schedule, a lot of people were high on them. They haven't really beaten any good teams. Yep. The teams that they're beating are lower in the standings, and they just look kind of soft.
Yep.
Like the way that they play, they aren't getting it together. Their high-powered offense isn't that way if they're not establishing the run, and they don't have the room for errors to make the 2 early interceptions like they did this past game and come back from that.
No, it really is. And, it kind of transitions nicely to what I'm talking about now is, as this is a fantasy NFL show, we talk about recaps and players and how they did last week and who are the upcoming players. We also want to talk about moving forward and in the divisional races, how that plays into keeping your players and fantasy players and things like that. And a few weeks ago, we talked about how it was runaways and things like that. We're going to talk about the AFC before the break and the NFC after the break. But right now in the AFC, I want to throw out a couple questions for you, and you have to answer, both of you guys, yes, no. Yeah. Are they in the playoffs? Are they not in the playoffs? And how does that affect fantasy? And right now, the first one I'm going to go with is the Bills are 6-3, and the Patriots are 7-4. I'm sorry. Yes, 6-3 and 7-4. Who makes the playoffs between those two? Does the Patriots make the playoffs, or do the Bills hold out and take strong, Brad?
The Bills win the division. The Patriots make the wild card.
Wow, Patriots making the wild card after they're 5 in a row. They started 2-4 on the season, have won 5 straight. That's wild, man.
I'm gonna have to agree with Brad. That's exactly what I would say. I think the Bills are gonna beat the Patriots.
Yeah.
Head to head. I think just the Bills are the better team, have more firepower on offense, and they're probably both pretty equal on defense. But the way the Patriots look right now, they're gonna beat up on the other teams on their schedule, and will, I think, easily become a wild card team.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is that in the past, the Patriots having such big leads in that division, you never wanted their players on the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season because they were resting them. They'd play them for the first half of the game, and then they would never get you any points in the second half of the game, and then you'd lose a playoff game or you lose a chance to get in the playoffs. So not this year. The Chiefs, Chargers, and Raiders and Broncos are all separated by a half a game. Chiefs are 6-4 and now lead the division. The Chargers are 5-4. Raiders are 5-4, and the Broncos are 5-5. Who wins that division, Corey?
The Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to win the division. They're ahead in the division now. If you asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd go with the Chargers.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Chargers just keep stumbling, and I think it's going to be, even if the Chiefs don't play that well, it's going to be more about the other teams playing worse than about them playing great. The Broncos, I just don't think have it. The Raiders are another team just struggling with all their off-field issues. And then the Chargers just can't seem to go ahead and grab it because they had a chance to really take that division.
And one of the stats I'd like to point out here is the Chiefs' total points scored this year is 262. The next highest team is the Chargers at 219. That's 50 points difference. And that's the big. I think that might carry them to the division champion. I think you have to win this division to be in the playoffs here, though. You're like you said, you chose New England as your wild card. Do any of these teams in the wild card, Brad?
I don't see one of these teams making a wild card, which is going to be sad because one of these teams are going to be left out. But yeah, like you said, the only problem with the Kansas City is they're giving up the 241 as well.
Yeah.
So.
They're giving up as many as they're scoring. That's the problem. So now we're going to the next division in the AFC. We have the Ravens at 6-3, Steelers at 5-3. We just talked about it. They should be at 6-3 there. They made that tie. You get the Bengals at 5-4 and the Browns at 5-5. This is just like that other division. It's an absolute horse race right now, and I don't know who's going to come out on top. Brad, who do you see taking the win?
Well, the funny thing in this division, no one is on a winning streak.
One's on a tie streak, you know?
Yeah. So the Ravens are going to pull this out.
Okay. And then the last division, and we're going into it, Corey, we've got the 8-2 Titans, the 5-5 Colts, the Jags, and the Texans. We feel that the Texans are going to walk away with that division. I mean, the Titans are going to walk away with that division. Do the Colts make the playoffs as a wild card?
So we have to remember that there is the 7 teams make the playoffs now, and not just the 6. So I do think the Colts have a decent chance of making the playoffs. There's going to be the games against. They do play the Patriots coming up. They have the Titans again.
Yep.
So those are games that you got to try and win one of those.
Yep.
The Colts, like, they play the Bills today, so their schedule is not the easiest. Like, coming up the next 3 weeks or next 2 weeks, it's Bills and Tampa. They still have New England and Arizona.
Yeah.
So those are hard games for the Colts. So I don't know if they actually can pull it off with how tough that their non-divisional schedule is.
And that's part of this, and those all play into fantasy players and things like that. Right now, we're going to catch the break. We'll catch you on the other side of this. Want to thank everybody for listening. We'll see you when we get back.
Gibson Truck World's expert team of sales and service staff will show you why we have been the pioneer of used trucks since 1995. With our 1-year bumper-to-bumper warranty valid across the entire United States, our exclusive 15-day exchange policy, and our $1,000 best price guarantee, it's easy to see why we're the #1 used truck dealership in all of Florida. Please call, visit, or explore our website today to see for yourself why we are the king of trucks.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Last Gas Fantasy Sports Podcast coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World studio here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors, found at Celebration Point here in Gainesville, Florida. Brad, this place is picking up, even on a holiday weekend coming up with Thanksgiving. There's, 10, 15, 20, 30 tables that are full. People are still coming in right now. They're enjoying the weather. They're wanting to be outside, come in here, get brunch. It's great atmosphere, man.
It's a beautiful atmosphere. Watching these people, watching us, having a great environment, great food. Come out and try Spurrier's.
Yeah, no, it's a really good time. Also, remember to find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Send in the questions during the day right now. We'll answer your comments. We'll answer your questions, and we'll really get those going. You're coming into a part of the season where you've really got to fight. You can't afford a loss. because it's no time to make it up. So really try your best to let us know. We'll give you our feedback. We gave feedback to somebody last week and told them to sit Gibson. That was wrong, but that's part of fantasy. You make those stabs, you take the best information you can, and you go about it. But that's why I love this sport so much, about talking about fantasy football and things. You look at all the numbers, you can look at all the things like this guy's not going to do anything. And the Bills a couple weeks ago threw to a guy that I've never even heard of, was on the field, and he scored like 3 touchdowns. So we appreciate all your following and support, and we love you guys each time. I think, Brad, you want to start out with something?
Yeah,
here?
I just want to do a fun trivia for anybody out there listening to us. In the NFL, how many teams play their home games in the state of New York?
Okay. How many teams play their home games in the state of New York? That's Brad's question, and send us your answers in on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll look at them live, and as soon as we get a winner, we'll name it, and that's going to be awesome, Brad. I love the question. As we left that before the break, we were talking about the AFC and talking about who's going to win the divisions, who's making the playoffs. Now we're moving to the NFC. We're going to start with you two's division right now. You guys are both in the same division on the teams you love. It could be very interesting how this turns out with both of these teams. And I say that because we're trying to be polite
Jokingly, right?
to one of the co-hosts. We're going to be.
You don't have to.
I mean, it's only a 4-game league, but listen.
Cowboys 7-2, the Eagles 4-6, the Washington football team are 3-6, and the Giants are 3-6. My question to you, Corey, is: do one of the 3 teams that are in that bottom half of that division make the playoffs as the 7th team at all?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think they all probably beat up on each other.
Yep.
The Cowboys are the class of the division. That's a runaway that they're going to win this division. The Giants probably should have beaten Washington the first game. Mm-hmm. But if you look at Giants versus Washington, Washington versus Philadelphia, Philadelphia versus New York, all of those games are coin flips. I think they probably split the series or split the games between each team, and that just leaves best case scenario for those teams. They're 500.
Yep.
And I just don't see any of those teams really standing out outside of the division. If I were to pick one of them, I'd probably pick Washington, just because if their defense can get it together, they can score enough points. And
And that's gonna be hard too, because they lost Chase Young for the and they lost Chase Young for the season. So,
and just like the other division, this one's just the opposite. Every team in this division is on a winning streak.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You've got the next division. You've got the Cardinals. You got the Cardinals sitting at 8-2, the Rams at 7-3, the Niners at 4-5, and the Seahawks at 6-3. Brad, do the Cardinals stay in charge of that, take that division, and end up with home field advantage throughout the playoffs? Are they the number 1 seed in the?
The Rams are going to win this division.
Okay, Rams are going to win this division. They're going to come back and beat the Cardinals and take that. Cardinals going to get the playoffs.
The Rams are on a 2-game losing streak, but they're going to get this thing turned around, and they're going to come back and win that division.
Okay, I like that. I think both of them make the playoffs. I think that's the thing there. That's not a question. And here the thing is that you got Niners, Seahawks both sitting under 500. But if you look at the rest of the divisions, the Vikings, Bears, and Lions, which is I'm going to next, are all under 500. Lions have 0 wins. Bears are 6-3. Vikings are 4-5. The Packers are going to walk away with that division, just like the NFC North there with the Dallas walking away with that division. But you can look at any of these sub 500 teams that are going to be making a chance for a playoff. One of them is going to make the playoffs. It's just which one is. Do you think anybody from the NFC North, from the Vikings, Bears, or Lions, makes that, Corey?
I think the Vikings have a shot. Most of their losses are really close, tight games. If they can get a couple of those wins moving forward, I don't see why they can't make the playoffs. They showed the in the hunt graphic.
Yeah.
Honestly, in the NFC, every single team still has a chance to make the playoffs except for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you're looking, there's the division leaders and then the Rams.
Yep.
And then the next 2 teams that would be wild card are the Saints and Panthers. And the Saints are the 6th seed at 5-4. This thing can jumble around so easily.
And especially with 17 games this year, right?
Yes.
And that one extra game makes all the difference in the world.
In the change in the playoff rules, taking the 7 teams, it's the 4 winners and it's the 3 next best teams, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So it could be everybody out of NFC
from the same division.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. And that's the next division there. We have the Bucks 6-3, Saints 5-4, Panthers 5-5, and the Falcons 4-6. Saints and Bucks are on a 2-game losing streak along with the Falcons, and the Panthers are sitting 5-5, kind of hanging in there. Brad, are they a real deal, and are they going to make the playoffs?
And that's the reason I was talking about that, because I think the Bucks, the Saints, and the Panthers are going to the playoffs.
Okay, well, that as long as the Bucks make it, I could. I don't care about winning division. We just need to make it in there, and when he's there, he's almost unstoppable. And to note, the Bucks haven't lost at home this year, so that's a big thing. When they're playing at home, they don't lose compared to, on the road, they're just not playing well. Brad, I think we're going to turn it over to you now. Get into some injury reports. Follow up on some big names here that might be in, might be out. Some of the players that are still out from last week, and we're going to talk about them and see what's going on from there.
Yeah, our injury report. Amari Cooper is out. That was a late notice this week. He's going to be out. Marcus Brown, they thought he was going to play this week with Baltimore Ravens, but they just said that he's out this week. Jared Goff, Detroit Lions, he's not playing. It doesn't look like it, at least. It's doubtful right this second. Alec Ingram, the fullback for Las Vegas Raiders, is out. Alvin Kamara, the running back for the Saints, out.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brad.
Yeah.
That happened to me last week. He's been out for 2 weeks in a row. Can he get healthy?
I know.
Golly.
Well, my guy Chris Carson, he's going to end up doing end of the season surgery, so he's not coming back. Even though they kept on saying he's coming back, but he's not coming back this season. So he's out for good. Elijah Mitchell, running back, San Francisco, is doubtful.
And I think, as we mentioned Elijah Mitchell and running that, it's nice to mention some waiver wires, and we mentioned that. I think, Corey, you had a name that's a backup for him at San Fran, right?
Yeah, Jeff Wilson Jr. I picked him up in my league. Any year for San Francisco, they've had a lot of running back injuries, and each guy just seems to be able to step in and, get his yards. Last week, the Colts Jonathan Taylor was able to run all over Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I don't see why Jeff Wilson can't do the same
Yeah.
for the 49ers this week.
And it is Jeff Wilson, not Sermon.
Yeah, Sermon, I would definitely go with Jeff Wilson over Sermon. There's something going on there that Shanahan just doesn't seem
And he's
to
a
like.
rookie, right? Sermon's a rookie
Yeah,
out of Ohio State.
Ohio State. He had that big playoff game
Yeah.
against Clemson, or ran for 200 and whatever yards.
And if anybody watched that game yesterday, what a disaster that was in the first half for Michigan State. But anyway, I digress, and I always seem to do that. But anyway.
Curtis Samuel, wide receiver, Washington, questionable, unlikely to play. That's the main injury reports for this week.
And I'm also going to add a couple on there. Cordarrelle Patterson, out. One's out last week, or he got hurt in the first quarter of last week's game.
Well, they played Thursday, so he was out. He did not play on Thursday.
He did not play on Thursday, so
and then Aaron Jones.
Yep.
Big one, just off of me not having him in my lineup is one that stands out for me.
And I guess I missed a big one, too. Lamar Jackson, he did get hurt. He has an illness, actually. He's not even hurt, so he's questionable. Keep an eye on him.
2 other names. Actually, 3. Ben Roethlisberger did clear COVID protocol from last week. He is playing, so make sure if you want him in your lineup, he is available. DeAndre Hopkins is still not playing.
He's out.
In Arizona, so just a reminder of that. Make sure you follow that. The backup Moore is there. He hasn't really done much, but maybe he'll do something this week. And lastly, Donovan Peoples-Jones. We talked about him coming back. He has just been a disaster for Cleveland. You thought that he'd step up with OBJ gone, but man, it's just been terrible.
And he practiced lightly on Friday. I went and picked him up on the waiver wire because someone dropped him, but now it looks like he's unlikely to play.
Golly. So the other 2 names that we have, Corey already mentioned one, Jeff Wilson Jr. is running back, and then Brandon Ayuk from San Francisco has been a popular waiver wire ad this week. Also with Rashad Bateman, and he's been another one in there. So Elijah Moore as well. So watch those guys, checking out that and see what's going on. So we'll keep going. We appreciate everybody. First off, we want to say a quick thank to our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company, for bringing us over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs. Also, Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza and Grill. Whether you need a quick lunch or dinner destination to meet up with friends and family, at your place or ours, Paisano's is the place to go. Also, I want to say special thanks to Gibson Truck World for sponsoring the studio, and Viking Companies. Follow us at Last Gas Fantasy on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and still find us on www.lastgasfantasy.com or email us during the week at www.lastgasfantasy.com, and we'll answer those questions, or at Gmail. That's actually at Gmail. So see those emails in, call us that day. I think we're going to move over to picks now, Brad. Give us some time to really go through those, have some fun with that, picking the spreads, picking against the spreads, doing some things along that nature, and really getting into it this week. We already know what happened in New England and Atlanta. We're going to let that go, pass along that. New England shut out Atlanta. It was nasty. It was just New England doing New England things. We're going to go to Indianapolis at Buffalo. Indy is getting 6.5. Who do you like?
It's going to be a great game. Indianapolis needs to get the win to try to make the playoffs here, but I think Buffalo's got this one.
Okay. Corey?
I've got Buffalo taking the win. On my line, I have it at -7. I don't know if they're going to cover. So if you're looking at that, it's 6.5 is a big difference from 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also agree with the guys. We're going unanimous Buffalo. We think they take care of business at home. It's probably going to be cold up there. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be cold.
A lot of people going through tables right about now.
Yeah, backs are hurting a lot right now.
Going through tables right now.
Baltimore is giving up 6.5 at Chicago. I picked up Cole Kmet as a tight end there, as a waiver wire pickup. Think about that. He's on the waiver wire pickup. Picked him up late. If you need another player in there to fill in, I got rid of T.J. Hawkinson. He's been a terrible play for me the last few weeks. Pick him up. But who do you like, Brad?
Baltimore's going to come back after last week's debacle and pick this up a win.
And Corey?
I got the same. Baltimore picking up the win and covering the spread.
So Chicago's played very well at home, and they're coming off a bye week, right? They're coming off a week where they had an opportunity. Why that reminds me, I just want to make sure that we all know that the L.A. Rams are on a bye week, that the Denver Broncos are on a bye week. Make sure you don't have any players in for there. We like to make sure we touch base with that. I like Baltimore in this game, but I don't think they cover the 6.5. I think it's closer than that at home in Chicago.
But Khalil Mack is out, and then one of their starting linebackers is also out for Chicago, which I think gives Lamar a lot of opportunity to run around. And I think Latavius Murray is finally coming back.
Yep.
So they have one of their top 2 running backs actually able to play for the first time in a few weeks. That's why I'm going with Baltimore to cover.
Nice. So the next game, we've got Detroit at Cleveland. Cleveland's giving up 10.5 here, and Cleveland got stomped last week. And Corey, I'm going to start with you. Would you even get anywhere near this with a 10-foot pole this game?
I actually teased Cleveland down. They were at 13 for me. I teased them down. The big one is Jared Goff isn't playing.
Yep.
I think they put a lot of effort into trying to win that game against Pittsburgh and got the tie. And while it was nice to not lose every game for the season, it's still going to be a little rough. Their starting quarterback, I am losing him off the top of my head. He has like 12 passing yards in his career. So it's not – I think if Cleveland can put up some points, I just don't see Detroit putting up enough points.
To even be in the game.
Yeah.
Brad, what do you think?
Well,
Same way?
Detroit's coming off a non-loss last week, so they're on a high streak, and I'm going to take Cleveland to cover.
That's going to carry into this week's game. I mean, so what you're saying is they really got a chance? Oh, man, that's
Cleveland to cover.
That's great. I'm with you there. Houston at Tennessee. Houston's getting 10.5. Houston's terrible. I don't know how the spread's. I don't know how the spread is at 10.5. I think it should be 20.5. I'm taking Tennessee easy on this. I think everybody would agree that Tennessee handles this game and handles their business at home.
Across the table.
Yep.
I do think Houston covers, though.
I agree 100%.
They're coming off a bye.
Oh, so you're. Oh, yeah.
Tennessee's going to win,
Yep.
but I think Houston covers. They're coming off a bye. Tennessee's been playing nothing but playoff caliber teams. I think this might be a game where they play down to their competition.
Really?
Yeah.
So I think you take the -10.5 for Tennessee all day and never go with Houston anywhere. But I understand.
I'm not
it.
touching it, but I think
And all the experts are saying, sit Adrian Peterson. I'm playing Adrian Peterson because Adrian Peterson will score. Will score.
So, my buddy Kenny, this is why I get in trouble all the time. He loves Adrian Peterson. I don't know what Brad's infatuation with Adrian Peterson is, but he's my co-host. I got to trust him. He knows insider information. Pick him up, take him, play AP this week. He's going to score, guarantee. Otherwise, he's got to run around Spurrier's naked next week. So, that's part of life. We got Green Bay at Minnesota. Green Bay is losing 2.5. I don't understand this line. I don't get it. I know Minnesota's decent. But Green Bay has owned Minnesota for years, and I know Green Bay's coming off a 17-0 win against Seattle, ugly win. I know that they've got some issues with Aaron Rodgers. I think Green Bay takes this handily, so I think they cover the points and more and take the win.
This is one of those games that I was talking about earlier where you could have some really good points. You got Cousins versus Rodgers, and I think it could end up being a nice game for both of them. I'm going to go Green Bay cover.
This is one of those games where I think it's so easy to take Green Bay that there's got to be something wrong. Like, it's one of those ones that it immediately jumped out to me like, oh, that's an easy Green Bay win.
Yeah.
That someone knows something. I'm still going to go with Green Bay, but it scares me.
Like Vegas knows something. Vegas
yeah.
knows something's wrong.
Yeah, that's the one that scares me.
The other one the name that you were missing was Tim Boyle for Detroit. So I went and looked it up. Tim
Appreciate
Boyle,
it.
I would not pick him up off the waiver wire. I
Yeah.
would not start him. It's his first ever NFL start, and he's thrown 12 yards. So just think about that. The next game we've got is Miami at the Jets. This game is going to be a game of surprisingly, I think this is going to be more points than people think it's going to be.
I agree with you.
I don't think it's going to be just this defensive battle back and forth. Tua is starting to get his legs under him a little bit better this year. He's coming. I think he's going to get a little more healthy. I think the Jets potentially have a way to get going. That I don't like them changing their quarterback at this point in the season. I think they need to stick with. They need to give some continuity behind that position, but the running backs there have done. Michael Carter has done very well.
Yeah.
He's been a good fantasy pickup for most people to come off the waiver wires. I think Miami gets the job done at the Jets, but it's going to be a close. I think it's 3 points, but I think it's like 24-21, 27-24, something like that.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it exactly how I was thinking it. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be higher scoring. I think the over would be something I would look at.
Well, I disagree with both of y'all. I'm going the Jets. I think Joe Flacco comes and gives them a little bit of veteran quality
man.
and gives them a little bit of a passing game.
I think he's hurt in the first quarter.
Michael Carter does run, and the Jets win this by 7.
All right, I like it. We got New Orleans at Philadelphia. New Orleans is getting 1.5 going into Philly. We talked a little about Jalen, and we talked a little bit about that team there, and Devontae Smith just really playing. He's putting his name up there for Rookie of the Year right now. He's really, really done a good thing. The hard part is I think it's gonna come down to 2 Alabama players as Rookies of the Year. You're gonna have Mac Jones carrying New England, and you're gonna have Devontae Smith playing very well. So I think New Orleans gets off the losing streak they're on and beats Philly in Philly. But I wouldn't be surprised if Philly handles this and wins at home.
Yeah, I think this game is a coin flip. I'm going to go with Philly. Just the way that they're starting to let Jalen Hurts run more, it's really starting to pick up their offense. Yep. And then just with them being at home, I give them a little bit more advantage as well.
Yeah, Philly's on a winning streak. We're going to stick with them.
Okay. Next game, we've got Washington at Carolina. This is another one of those weird spreads where you look at it and you go, that doesn't make any sense, but both teams are playing well. Washington's coming off beating my Tampa Bay. Carolina handled business on the road at Arizona. So, it's 2.5 to Washington. I like Carolina at home, and that's what I'm going to go with.
He says he's back. I'm going to stay with Carolina.
Okay.
I'm going Washington. I would take Washington straight up. I think they're going to win the game.
Nice.
Both teams coming off are in a letdown spot coming off of big wins. I just think Washington is the better overall team. Yep. Carolina does have Christian McCaffrey back, though, so that would come into play.
Yeah, that's a big name. Make sure you got him on your bench. If you didn't drop him earlier, McCaffrey came back, had a monster week last year. He could have been your surprise player, but anything CMC does is not a surprise to me. We've got
and being healthy is a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, that's more surprise than him what he does on the football field. San Fran, -6.5 at Jacksonville. This closes out the 1 o'clock games. I think San Fran wins this, but I would not be surprised if you're going to take Jacksonville, take a money line, because the points aren't going to matter if Jacksonville wins. They're going to win out. I mean, they're not going to cover by like 3 points. It's not going to be a close game. If Jacksonville's close, they're going to win the game. So I would take San Fran in this game, but that's just what I would go with.
Jacksonville's defense is starting to play very well.
Yeah.
They've got a very strong defense, and I think they're going to shut down San Francisco's running game, and I think they're going to win this outright.
Yep.
I'm going with San Francisco here and 2 cover. I think San Francisco might have found themselves last week against the Rams. As we said, there's so many teams that could be fighting for the wild card in the NFC, and I think the 49ers have a good chance to get it. So this is a game that they have to win if they want to be a playoff team.
They do.
Now we got about 5 minutes left in the show. We want to thank everybody for being here, watching, showing up. We're running on some time here. We love it. We could talk for probably 2-3 hours on some of these. I'm going to run through the last couple, but I want to give us a couple extra minutes to talk about that Tampa New York game. I think Cincinnati beats Las Vegas at Las Vegas. I think they play well.
Yep.
I I know who you're going to pick. I'm going to pick the same team. I think the only one that would be different is, are you taking Kansas City or Dallas in that game?
I'm going to take Kansas City just
Yep.
because it's in Kansas City.
So I think I like Dallas because I think they're playing too well, and this is one of those games where it's a playoff contention that they need to show that they just can't beat up on the little guys.
Kansas
Yeah.
City doesn't have
Yep.
the defense to stop
Yeah.
Dallas.
Arizona at Seattle.
It's going to be super high scoring.
Yeah.
This is one of those lines that's weird to me as well. 1.5. I think Arizona wins that game easy, but maybe it's a bounce back game for Seattle.
I'm going with Seattle on this one just because they're out without Kyler Murray, and I'm pretty sure Colt McCoy isn't going to play either, so they're on the third string.
Gotcha.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we got Pittsburgh at the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers are giving up 3.5. I think the Chargers play well, come back after that loss, handle it, and beat Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is falling out of that division race real fast.
Agreed. Pittsburgh's going to have a rough time for the rest of the season, I think.
Yep.
Roethlisberger hasn't really played well,
Yep.
and I think they're going to struggle going forward.
And I'm going to let you take the floor for a couple minutes or however long you need to talk about the Giants at Tampa. What's your feel on that game Monday night? You're getting 11.5.
So I'm going tomorrow. Very excited. Haven't been in a while.
Congratulations.
I'm actually not that excited because I think the Buccaneers are going to win pretty easily. I, however, am going to take the Giants to cover. Brady does not do well against the spread in primetime games. For whatever reason, they always play close. The Giants' offense is looking a little bit better. Daniel Jones, they're doing a little bit more quick passes.
Yep.
Hopefully, Kadarius Toney can get more involved in the offense. Giants' defense has been more locked down. And as we said earlier, with Tampa Bay struggling on offense, they're just not getting it together.
Yep.
Tampa Bay is going to win the game, but I think the Giants are going to cover the spread.
What you got, Brad?
I agree 100%. I think Tampa's going to win, but I do not think it's going to be by 11.5 points.
So you know me. You guys both watch the show, listen to me.
Yeah.
When I feel Tampa's spread is off, I just throw an absurd BS number like, oh, they'll beat them by 40, and then it ends up being like 6. I think this is dead on. I think 10 is a fair number. So I believe they win by 10 because, Danny Dimes is absolutely, he was a big question mark coming to the season. Is he going to mature into a third-year, fourth-year quarterback, whatever he's at now? Is he going to take a leap to be a leadership of that New York team? And I think I think he's done the positive moves when he's been healthy to make that step. And if they could keep some of the players healthy around him, I think they're getting Slayton back. I think they're getting Toney back. I think they're getting Galladay back. Those guys are all getting healthy. We just mentioned somebody talk about Saquon coming back. When you start adding these kinds of weapons around him that's still being a productive offense, I think they're a tough team to play throughout the rest of the year, which is why I think they're going to make the playoffs. And I'm not saying that because you're here, and I'm not saying that because my friends are Dallas fans. I think the NFC is wide open. I think they lose this and still make the playoffs because I think they're going to go 7-7. That'd be 14. I think they go 8-8 or 9-8 or 8-9, and an 8-9 team will make the playoffs in the NFC. I think Tampa wins this. We got 1 minute left. Corey, what do you got? Anything exciting this week? Anything you got going on?
It's one of those we're hitting the grind, playoff push in fantasy. Make sure that you're checking your injuries. You're checking that your lineup is set. In our league, we've got a bunched up group in the middle. It is anyone's game. You could, play the spoiler. If you're down at the bottom, set your lineups, stick with it, play the spoiler. If you're in a league, I always recommend trying to do like points, highest points for the week gets a little payout, just so it keeps the lower teams more involved.
That makes sense. That was going to be a question we asked is how do you keep lower teams engaged?
Yeah.
Highest points for the week is a way to do that, to make sure you just feel good, or a beer or a cup of coffee, just something fun,
Yeah.
Brad?
Well, we appreciate everybody watching. We appreciate everybody participating. And the answer to the trivia question is there is only one team that plays their games in New York. The New York Jets and the Giants do not play their games in New York. They play in New Jersey. Buffalo. Buffalo Bills are the only team that plays in New York.
Well, that was a great trivia. I want to thank you, Corey, for being on the show. It's a blast having you. Brad, like always, we're doing this. I want to remind everybody we're not going to have a show next week. It is Thanksgiving. We won't be here next Sunday. We'll be here the following Sunday. So tune in live. If you have any questions, still we'll answer them. We might go live on a personal thing. We're running a little bit over here. We want to thank everybody for the continued support of the show, and we hope you have a great one and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.